Shalom. Kahala Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai Ba'ashim Kadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us His truth. Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word in truth and in sincerity. The hopeful elect tabernacle of David. I'm the brother Yahshua back with the WW3 Daily update. It's going to be the last one for this week, and we'll start again on Monday, which I believe will be the 4th of October. Today is the 1st. All right, so we're watching prophecy unfold before our eyes, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a little passage here. I'm going to explain it. We're going to watch a video, come back, and we'll recap with the same thing just to ensure that you understand what is being said, all right? So this is the book of 2nd Ezra, 15, and where are we? 28. Salakia. Behold, a terrible vision. Salakia. Behold, a horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, or in this case, the Middle East, all right? Where the nations, plural, of the dragons of Arabia, the Arabs, shall come out with many chariots. This is talking about helicopters and tanks, you know, like the ones that were left behind in Afghanistan that they're selling to the Iranians and selling all over in that area. And Taliban got them now, and you know, they're arming all of the homies, right? Now what are they going to do with all of them weapons? Where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Okay? Let's talk about the Arab nations, right, who have suddenly been empowered and handed a whole bunch of weaponry, tanks and Black Hawks and shit. And they're selling them and they're supplying, you know, other Arab nations and becoming stronger. And other Arab factions like Hezbollah. Why is Iran buying Black Hawk helicopters and tanks from the Taliban? So that they can give them to Hezbollah and Hamas so that they can better fight on the front that they're on, right? And that's going to be explained. Somebody's going to explain that in detail, all right? Also, the Carmanians. Who's the Carmanian? The Iranians, okay? They're teaming up here because the Iranians aren't actually Arabs. A lot of those Iranians, those are Persians. They're not Arabs. Also, the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come. Wait a minute, what great power? Well, they're buying Black Hawks and Abrams, whatever they're over there buying. Okay? They're completing, as if they haven't already, they're getting their nuclear arsenal together. And with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Who are the Assyrians in this case? It's talking about the United States of America. How are they going to do that? Do they not have sleeper cells and stuff going on over here? All they got to do is give the word, and attacks will start over here. And I'm talking about right here in the good old U.S. of A. It says, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Okay? And that means wherever the United States is, like the bases in Iraq, right? They got the biggest military bases on the face of the earth. The United States built them in the last 20 years over in Iraq. What were they doing in Afghanistan the whole time? All right. And it goes on. And then shall the dragons, what dragons? The dragons of Arabia, the Arabs, and then shall the dragons have the upper hand. They've been fighting with sticks and stones over there for years, right? Okay. But now they just inherited a bunch of firepower, right? And the Carmanians over there refining uranium, right? Building nukes. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature. He's a wild man, all right? And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together, who's together? The Carmanians and the dragons. If they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, to persecute who? The Assyrian, the Americans, right? Then these shall be troubled, bled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. Did they not just run up out of Afghanistan? Because they're conspiring together over there in great power. Who just ran up out of Afghanistan? And from the land of the Assyrians, this is talking about right here in the good old US of A, shall the enemy besiege it. It's also talking about over there in Iraq, where the American bases are. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them. Who's the enemy of the Assyrians? Iran, the Arab state. They're in Iraq. What are they doing in Iraq? It's not their land. All right, but they took it, just like America. They took it. Right? Shall the enemy besiege them and consume some of them, and in their host, some of them, right? And in their host, in their armies, shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings, who are the president, the secretary of state, the vice president. Strife. There's going to be fear. They already ran up out of Afghanistan. Fear and dread and strife. They ain't going to be getting along. They're going to be pointing at each other. What's going on with Trump and this Biden right now? They're pointing the finger. Oh, it was his fault. Oh, we started withdrawing from Afghanistan under his watch. That's strife among kings. All right? This is what we're looking at. Let's watch this. Try to keep it short. All right, this is secret reports. This is dealing with, look at this. Breaking news. Iran and Arab states, the dragons of Arabia, the Carmanians, right there, strikes who? The Amalekites, the least of the flock, drawing them out. Big shock to the Assyrians. Okay? So listen to what they're going to say here. All right? They're going to say why these things are happening. They're going to say that the Arab states are coming together and being empowered. And how?
Dear listeners, welcome to the Secret Reports channel. By subscribing to our channel, you can be informed about important reports that are not included in the media. After the U.S. defeat in Afghanistan and the emergence of a new Middle East project, new plans began to be made in the Middle East. In order to strengthen its dominance in the Middle East.
They keep saying Middle East. In the Bible, they call it the Valley of Jehoshaphat, or Jehoshaphat, all right, where all the troops are being gathered.
Iran intensified its attacks by threatening Israel.
Iran is the Carmanians. Why are they? Israel has a nuclear arsenal that's formidable. Iran must have some nukes of its own. if they're going heads up with why haven't they done this until now? See, Iran was hiding behind Hamas and Hezbollah and their proxies, but now they're outright standing up. They said, let the weak say I am strong.
Biggest enemy in the region with Hezbollah militants. There are three critical regions in the world at the moment. One is Eastern Europe, the other is the South China Sea, and the last is Syria. Because there is still an endless civil war going on in Syria. Syria, which is one of the most critical countries in the Middle East in terms of its geographical location, also attracts the attention of many different big countries due to its geopolitical location.
That's the Most High gathering the troops down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat.
Countries such as Russia, Iran, the USA, Israel, and Turkey have entered into many conflicts of interest in Syria, and every day a different player plays an important role at the table, making a new move. After the almost complete US withdrawal from Iraq, Iran began to shift its militant forces to Syria. In Tehran, which has good relations with the regime in the region.
When he says shift its militant forces, they're talking about Hezbollah, Hamas, their proxies that they're arming and have been arming, but now they have access to greater weaponry as well as nuclear bombs. Let's hear that again.
To Syria. In Tehran, which has good relations with the regime in the region, it opened large areas for its militant forces in the region.
Oh, here we go.
If you use these to remove it.
Let's go back and hear that again because we got interrupted. Oh, right here.
After the almost complete US withdrawal from Iraq, Iran began to shift its militant forces to Syria. In Tehran, which has good relations with the regime in the region, it opened large areas for its militant forces in the region and placed Hezbollah in different parts of the country. The main reason why Iran attaches so much importance to Syria is that it wants to put pressure on Israel through Syria, which is a neighbor of Israel outside its own borders. Iran sows seeds of hatred against Hamas and the Palestinian people, which it already supports, and carries out regular attacks against Israel, and at the same time, it rains missiles on Israel from Lebanon through Hezbollah. 2021 did not treat Iran very well on Palestine and Lebanon. Because Israel changed its policy towards Palestine and started to develop good relations with the Palestinian people. At the same time, the riots and economic crisis in Lebanon caused the Lebanese people to be uncomfortable with the Hezbollah militants in the country. When Iran lost these two fronts, it started to attack Israel over the Golan Heights by combining its militant and regime forces in Syria. This was the only front he had left, and he had to seize this opportunity. In response to these attacks, Israel launched a missile attack on the Iranian-backed outpost and Hezbollah headquarters in Syria. At that time, some of these attacks were prevented by Russian air defense systems, but Russia also gave certain warnings to Iran. In fact, some regime forces commanders who supported Iran at that time were killed by an airstrike by Russia. Here, Iran received its first major blow from Russia. Having found courage again with the defeat of the USA in Afghanistan, Iran started to organize many actions in the region. It attacked a US base in Iraq, then launched missile attacks on a US base in Syria. It was time to activate the Hezbollah militants that they had settled in Iraq and Syria for years. In this process, Iran also struck an Israeli-bandered ship in the Gulf, and with this incident, a US, UK, and Israeli front faced. On the other hand, he put the nuclear missile studies, the biggest trump card in his hand, on the table. He threatened the world and especially this triple alliance. It is understood that one of the remedies that Iran has found for now, which is looking for a new way out in the region, is to establish an Iranian-Arab cooperation in Syria. Russia's domination.
Did you hear that? Listen to that little piece again, and I'll go back and I'll show you that in the scriptures.
Which is looking for a new way out in the region, is to establish an Iranian-Arab cooperation in Syria.
Okay, to establish an Iranian and Arab what do you say, coalition? One more.
The remedies that Iran has found for now, which is looking for a new way out in the region, is to establish an Iranian-Arab cooperation in Syria.
All right. So you can see, I'm gonna try to keep it short, but let's go back here, all right? All right. Behold, an horrible vision. This is 2nd Ezra 15 and 28. And the appearance thereof from the east, the Middle East, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also the Carmanians raging, this is the Iranians, this is the Arabs, raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, Carmanians and the dragons. And with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrian. You just heard them say that they're over there bombing the U.S. bases in Iraq. Okay? And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature. And if they shall turn themselves conspiring together, they just said that, in great power to persecute them, then these shall be troubled, bled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. This is what we're watching right now. Okay? And they're mentioning Russia, Russia, China, and Iran coming together, as not as though they're not already together. Let's get this real quick. This is the Most High. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. Who are the Medes? It's the Russians. Medo-Persian. Remember they used to be together? Right? The Medo-Persian Empire. That was the Russians and the Iranians. They got an alliance. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. All right? They're being stirred up too. As a whole, the Most High is gathering. I will gather all the nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. This is what the Most High is doing. And I'm going to say this over and over. All right? So, and show you the videos and the news update to let you know that prophecies are coming to pass. I will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Jehoshaphat. Here will I judge them for harming my people. All right, and we don't see that? We don't see them doing that? Where's that at? Where's that little mappy map at? There we go. Hey, what's going on over here? It's going down. All right? It's going down. Here we have Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, all the little spots that he was mentioning. You got Iran over here. You got Russia up here. All right. Hey, this is the Valley of Jehoshaphat right here. All right. Israel over here. Okay. So, good enough. Keep your eye on the prophecies coming to pass, all right? So with that, I hope that the elect were edified. And with that, we'll say, until next week, shalom.